The Magnificent Seven stocks of the United States are in bear market right now. But does that mean the Nasdaq, the Spider, the SP 500, and Bitcoin and crypto are all going to bear market? I don't quite agree because, they still haven't hit their 20% drop yet. That's what it needs. Today's episode, I'm going to explain to you guys why the Federal Reserve did not cut interest rates and why they don't plan on cutting on interest rates, even though there's some panic and fear about the recession situation in the US. Let me show you guys a chart that explains why the Federal Reserve is not cutting interest rates. So the chart I'm going to show you is called TLT. TLT is basically the 20-year Treasury bond ETF that have a 20-year maturity or duration. This is what banks buy. But look at this. All the banks got screwed. All the banks that parked their money inside the 20-year-old plus 20 to 30-year-old US Treasury bonds bought it in, this is March 2020. Which means during COVID, they would have bought around 180, 170, 165, 170, 165 because the government printed a lot of money. And when the government printed a lot of money, what happened is a lot of that money went to banks. And when the banks get those money, what are they going to do? They're going to have to invest it in something. They can't lend it out to businesses because there's COVID going on, so they don't trust businesses. The only thing they trust not to go broke that can repay them is US Treasury bonds. So remember how the US government printed something like $4 trillion? And something like $2.5 trillion ended up in the banks. And all they could do was buy those US government treasury bonds. Like we see, they bought at the top, 170, 165. And then US hiked interest rates like crazy to 5.5%, trying to crash China. That was their true objective. And yet China didn't crash, but the US bond market certainly did, because when yields go up, bond prices come down. So basically we saw bond prices go from like 180 down to 82. Oh my God. 180 down to 82. That's like a 55-60% drop. And even right now we're at 91 compared to 180, down 50%. That's why the Federal Reserve cannot cut interest rates right now. I just showed you on this chart that US government bonds, since they invested, are now down something like 55%. That means if these banks, I don't care if it's Bank of America or Manhattan Bank, whatever you want to call it, if they sell those bonds to get cash back to repay the depositors, if they do that, they're basically going to be losing 40 cents on the dollar. If someone deposited $100 billion with them, they sell those bonds, they only have 60 billion. How are they going to pay back all those European, Japanese, and Chinese investors? They can't. Then the Fed would need to bail them out. So that's why the Federal Reserve is not cutting interest rates right now, because if they cut interest rates really quickly and then the US dollar drops, then basically everyone rushes in to take their money out and put it back into Europe, China, Japan, Saudi Arabia. And if they do that, US banking system crashes. That is why it doesn't matter how bad the recession or the economic GDP numbers look, the Federal Reserve simply isn't gonna cut interest rates right now.